Now, why is this strip important? Because the Romans would later call it the Via Maris, the highway of the sea. Which sea? The Mediterranean Sea. It goes Gaza along the coast between Egypt and empires like Syria, Lebanon, and further north. Meaning, if you want to conquer south or north in the ancient world or today, you gotta roll through Gaza.
It is almost 2 years that the war has been going on in Gaza. But a lot of people don't really know the history of Gaza. I think it's a great opportunity to let's explore from a great historian to talk to us about the history of Gaza. Let's watch this together and we'll talk about it afterwards. In the meantime, please subscribe to the channel so we can continue growing our channel. A little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness.
All this talking about Gaza, 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 Gaza. There's a famine in Gaza, there's genocide in Gaza, there's war in Gaza, Gaza. Nobody actually, very few people know where it is, what its history is. What the hell is Gaza? I'm going to make you sound smart by telling you 4,000 years of Gaza history in just a couple of minutes. Gaza. Gaza has a history actually of 4,000 years. In ancient times, this strip, and I'm talking about 4,000 years ago in the Bronze Age, was Canaanite, the local people in the Holy Land. And this is even before, at the time, Abraham, the biblical Abraham, before the Hebrews, the Jews. And after a while, what they did is they built a little empire on this little tiny strip. Now, why is this strip important? Because the Romans would later call it the Via Maris, the highway of the sea. Which sea? The Mediterranean Sea. It goes Gaza along the coast between Egypt and empires like Syria, Lebanon, and further north. Meaning, if you want to conquer south or north in the ancient world or today, you gotta roll through Gaza. It's a port city, it's strategic. And here's the key, it never was a country in ancient times or today. It's always a little district, and port in someone's empire. How little? Maybe you didn't realize it, but Gaza is some 4 to 7 miles wide. Tiny, 4 miles, 7 miles, 25 miles long. We're talking about a little, same shape as Rhode Island, but 1/10 of the size. Tiny. And in this area, in ancient times, Canaanites, they actually ruled. Scholars sometimes call them Hyksos. They ruled all the way from Syria, along the coast in Judea, the land of the Jews, all the way to Egypt. Pharaoh Ahmose the first, the founder of the 18th dynasty, he destroyed them because they had conquered Egypt for a while. And this is actually linked to the biblical Exodus. By destroying them, he opened up the possibility for Joshua and the Israelites to go into the vacuum created there and establish the Hebrew state, the Judean state, Judea. But Philistines came. Philistines came around 3,200 years ago. Who were the Philistines? That's the first time the word that today's Palestinians shows up. They were Arabs? No, they weren't Arabs. Were they Canaanites? They weren't Canaanites. Were they Jews? They weren't Jews. They were Aegean. They were Greek-speaking people. They came from areas like the mainland Greece of today, Crete, and they showed up and they settled that area. They had 5 strongholds. Now, they're in the Bible as bad guys. For example, Samson. Samson and Delilah. Samson is a Hebrew. Delilah is a Philistine hottie. She tricks Samson and he gets killed in Gaza. Okay, David and Goliath. Goliath is a Philistine. So they're around for a while, but then they get destroyed by an empire, by the Assyrian empires. And then a whole bunch of empires, Babylonians, these guys come, those guys go, these guys come, those guys go. And so it goes for literally 1,000 years. About 2,100 years ago, it was part of Judea, the Jewish kingdom ruled by the Maccabees of Hanukkah fame. But that doesn't last long either. And then when the Arabs finally show up in the 600s, 7th century, So I'm talking about now, this is AD, CE, about 2,700 years no Arabs, and then Arabs show up. And they have an Islamic empire there, and then come the Crusaders, Christians, they kicked them out. And then come the Mamelukes, which are mercenary Muslims that took over Egypt. They were brought as slaves from area of Turkey. They were very well trained to the point that they took over the empire, and they ruled that area for about 300 years. And then finally come the Ottomans in today's Turkey, and they rule for a few hundred years. And finally the British, in modern times they call it the British Mandate of Palestine. I just went through some 4,000 years of history. Throughout that history, Canaanites are there, people with Canaanite stock, Arabs, and Jews. There's a continuous Jewish presence from the Maccabean times to today. There's synagogue, but it was destroyed by the Muslims. The Jews and the Christians were tolerated under the Muslim Mamelukes. They called them dhimmi. What's a dhimmi? Second-class citizen. We don't kill you, but you can't build new synagogues, but you can keep your old synagogue. We might even let you repair it. Church, the same thing. You can't build new churches, but you can fix your old church from time to time. Meaning for a very long time, the Jews in Gaza are second-class citizens, but they thrive. They thrive as merchants. They thrive as spice dealers, artisans, and there's even a very famous rabbi, Nathan of Gaza, that declares this guy Shabbatai Tzvi in the 1600s of the modern era, the Messiah. So they're there. And when the British come, they're there. And when the Jews come back from all over the world and start reestablishing Israel, a Jewish state, parallel with that, the Arabs start developing nationalism. You're a nationalist, I'm a nationalist. They don't call themselves Palestinians, they want to be part of Syria. They don't even use the word until the 20th century. And then in 1929, they expressed their nationalism in the way, unfortunately, they often do, by massacring Jews. Recently, they expressed their nationalism in Syria by massacring Druze. And they also expressed their nationalism by massacring Israelis on October 7th of 2 years ago. And suddenly we have Arab nationalism. In the 1960s, they start calling themselves Palestinians. But they say that's to pull the wool over the eyes of the infidels. If you don't know who the infidels are, that's the Western world. Why? Because they don't believe in states. CNN keeps saying two-state solution, the French, two-state solution, the British, the Canadians. They don't want a state. They vote for Hamas. That's universally, by all governments, called a terrorist organization. And this terrorist organization says all states are Western inventions and they're evil. What they want is an international Islamic caliphate. So we'll tell the CNN guys, we want a state. But we know that what we want is an Islamic republic. They love what's happening in Iran so much that they want to create a Sunni version of that. And that's where we are today. Their nationalism expressed itself in Gaza. Egypt ruled the place. In 1948, they didn't give them a state. In fact, to this day, they don't allow a single Palestinian refugees into Egypt. They put a wall between Gaza and Egypt. And what happens? The Israelis were there. Some Israelis want to settle that area. It's nice. It's beachfront property. If Israelis had a tenth of the money that was given to the Gazans, it would look like the French Riviera, and everybody knows it. There'd be hotels. Everybody would have a villa, because not only is it a very small place, very small population. Like 20 years ago, when the Israelis left Gaza, because they ruled it for a while because they kept having terrorists infiltrate from there. When the Israelis left, there was 1.3 million Gazans. Today, there's close to 2 million. Now, you hear the word genocide. Genocide means that you kill a lot of people, so there's almost no one left. The Palestinian population, not only is there no genocide against them, they actually grew. In the 20 years that Israel left Gaza, they went from 1.3 to 1.9 million. So they're small, there's not a lot of them, they're insignificant, except for the fact that they know how to fire missiles and create terror tunnels. Let's put it in perspective. During World War II, the Nazis fired 11,000 missiles at England, at London. And the whole world was for England when they stood up to the Nazis. But since Israel has left the Gaza Strip, said, here, do your own thing, build some villas, some hotels, get some tourism, have a soccer team, for goodness sake. They didn't do that. They just built terror networks, and they fired 31,000 missiles at Israel. The Nazis fired 11,000 at the Brits. They fired 31,000 at Israel. The world applauded when England fought back, and the whole world booing because Israel fought back. So that's the story of Gaza. Never a Palestinian state, never asking to be a Palestinian state, and today, after thousands of years of history, they managed to establish, the Arabs living there, a great achievement. It's the most concentrated and developed terror tunnel network in the world.
Wow. As the expression is, now you know the rest of the story. Now you know the history of Gaza. And you've seen what it has become. Opportunity is what God gives us. God gives us opportunities all day long, all the time. The question is, do we jump on the opportunity? Do we squander away the opportunity that comes our way? In 2005, exactly 20 years ago, on August 15, Israel evacuated or was expelled from Gaza. Not one Israeli was left there. Not only that, even our synagogues were taken down. Even our cemeteries, we had to exhume the bodies to move into Israel out of fear of what they would do to it. And our worst fears became true. They destroyed everything Israel left. When Israel was in Gaza and Gush Katif, they built beautiful neighborhoods, beautiful homes. They destroyed them all. They had an industry with greenhouses creating amazing vegetables, which they could have turned into a huge world supply industry. But they destroyed it all. They had an opportunity. They had a perfect opportunity to turn a page in history. They had a chance to take a quantum leap from the 7th century to the 21st century. They had that opportunity. They had the chance to take this quantum leap and let go of the death cult and embrace the 21st century and the future and turn Gaza into, as he said, a Riviera. For those of you that now know a little bit more about Gaza, Gaza got a beautiful coastal line along the Mediterranean. You could build the finest resorts. You could have built so many beautiful villas that all the Gazans that are living there, we don't call them Palestinians because Palestinians is not their real name. It's not who they are. It's a fake name. But they could have lived in freedom and could have been living just like any other Western country in total liberty and capitalism, and being able to build industries and live a life, have a good, healthy education, a good medical treatment system. They could have. This was opportunity that they passed. Time after, there were 5 times counted of statehood that they could have taken, and they chose the death route. They chose to go the dark road of a death cult instead of the light road of establishing a country. Well, what happened on October 7 is what basically set their own fate. They turned Gaza into a demolition land. Gaza is gone. Now the question is, how is it going to be rebuilt? Ideally, if the population can given freedom to choose any country they want to go to, and then once Gaza is rebuilt into a beautiful potential country as it can be, then they could choose to come back and live in peace. Otherwise, they could stay where they're at. So this may be a huge change of history. We are still baffled by the idea why Egypt doesn't open its borders and allow the fellow Muslims to come there to seek shelter from the war. We don't understand why any of the other Arab countries don't welcome them. Perhaps we know why, because they don't want trouble. But this is where we're at. It shouldn't be Israel's problem. It's not Israel's problem. If the world really cares about it as much as they've been protesting Israel, they need to do something about it. Let's pray, and we hope that peace can prevail very soon. God will be on the side of victory, for the right side of history, and there'll be peace in the Middle East and peace throughout the world. God bless you. God loves you.